This program was brought to you by Koller Institute of Venture at Tel Aviv University.
What I want to talk to you about is a very simple idea of how can we, Israelis, Tel Aviv University, Koller Institute of Venture, can help cities become startup-friendly cities, okay? So in order to do that, you need to be involved in research and in studies. You need to develop a methodology. Then you want to disseminate that information to other cities in the world. And then if you're successful, of course, you can be a world brand on that if you can. My story begins in Barcelona last February. You all are aware probably of the Mobile World Congress there. And that's a meeting place not only for mobile entrepreneurs, but also for a lot of angel investors, etc. I want to talk to you, mention three meetings that I had with investors or sort of investors which are relevant to this presentation. One was a Finnish guy from Ulu, okay? He said, we are investors in Ulu. There's a lot angel network around Ulu. I've never heard of Ulu before, I don't know if you have. But sure enough, if you check that, you will find that Ulu, which is situated some 500 kilometers north of Helsinki in Finland, has been nominated by the Fortune magazine as one of the 7 most promising global cities for startups, okay? So that was the first meeting that I didn't know of. Second meeting that I had was for a guy from Luxembourg, okay? This guy came to see me especially, only to meet with me in Barcelona, saying, why don't you Israeli guys invest in startups in Luxembourg? Okay. I said, do you have startups in Luxembourg? Do you have any, Yes. So he said, no, actually the idea is you bring startups from Israel or from other parts of the world to be accelerated or incubated in Luxembourg because we have such a wonderful financial system, okay? So that was a second meeting around this city idea. A third one was an Italian lady. I met an Italian lady sitting next to me in a dinner. She said, I'm a consultant to one of the Italian cities. I think it was Florence, I'm not that sure. And she said, my job is to bring the city to be a startup-friendly city. And I said, and how are you going to go about it? She said, I have no idea. That's what I came from, okay? So actually coming back, I was thinking, what does make a city to be the next technology hotspot, okay? Very simple question. And of course, I was not the first one to tackle this question. You see that the MIT Technology Review did have an article about that only about a month ago. And their conclusion, it was a very long article. I will tell you only the conclusion is, we don't know, okay, what makes it, but we do know that cities move, okay? So cities that were not starter hubs 5 or 10 years ago may become starter hubs in the next. And another thing is, everybody wants to be there, okay? So everybody's, playing with the idea, what can be done about our city that can help us become a hub. And of course, another one element that was mentioned in this article is venture capital. Okay, so venture capital is a very concentrated industry, and about over 50% of the $40 billion invested in venture capital were only in 5 locations. So that's one of the big hurdles for smaller cities around the world to become friendly startup cities. So, so that was an interesting insight. So if we want to propose services to cities around the world, we should be careful about it, okay? Because we want our cities' clients, okay, future clients, to be successful, okay? So we will not just pick any one. So how would we go about selecting cities? Here is probably I told myself it probably has to do about innovation, okay? So let's go and look what are the innovation rankings that we can find about the world. And here is a very respectable index. It's a composite index of 30 different composing indices by very respectable institutions. INSEAD, which I'm always happy to go back home and see what they do, not coming from a very big technology hub in Fontainebleau. I don't know how many of you have been in Fontainebleau. It has nothing to do with innovation or hub, but there was a very nice chateau from Napoleon there. and Cornell University.
And is innovation, no?
INSEAD is innovation, yes, but of the part of that, if you look at the city, as far as I know, there's nothing there. And I won't say one more word about Geneva. Okay? So said, what can we learn from ranking from the Global Innovation Index? And what I did here is a very simple exercise. I took the two top tiers groups, assuming there are 15 of them, in the index of venture capital deals. And you will find here some very strange countries, okay, like Togo, Lebanon. And the reason is that the way the index is measured is the number of venture capital deals adjusted by per capita GDP. So if that one is low enough, you will get to the list. Okay?
Like Zimbabwe.
Right. But the question is, if we want to be, just in terms of an exercise, where would I look for cities to be my future clients? My suggestion is look at tier 2, okay? Because tier 1 probably don't need us, okay? And maybe there are not too many of them. So here I did a small, very simple exercise for you, and I just handpicked, whatever I found a good candidate to be, and I got to the blue list, okay? The blue list may be interesting to look at them as future clients, and I think the one thing you will note about them is the vast majority of European countries. I went from here to do another very, very simple exercise, comparing the venture capital deals with two other indices, which may be relevant for our candidate cities. One is the richness of R&D and human capital, and the other one was business sophistication. And here what I would do, of course you know the Israel position on the list, it's a very nice one to start from, okay, etc. But for us, what I did here is I tried to look at countries which do appear high on the list of top 15 on the other two, but not on the first one. Okay, do you follow the logic? Okay, I'm looking for countries that have made it to the other indices, but not to the first one. Okay, for the same reason I was using before. And here you see, apart from the usual suspects, you find another nice list of European countries. Okay, so from here I come to the idea there's something about Europe.
Barbados sounds actually good.
Sorry?
Barbados sounds good.
Right, of course. Luxembourg, by the way, was there. Huh? So we have a couple of good reasons to look at Europe first. One is the list that I just mentioned. Another one that is a fragmented market, and probably in a less efficient market, you have more things to offer. Okay. Another thing is, if you looked at the results, that just last quarter, I think, was the first positive quarter for the Eurozone. Okay? And another good reason is that it's very close, It's closer than Korea, okay? Just to start our business from, okay? But there is even one more reason that is not apparent here, and you would be happy to learn about. This very concerned lady. Her name is Neelie Kroes, and she is responsible in the European Commission for the digital agenda of Europe, okay? So she has a lot of things on her plate, like communication markets and regulation and internet connectivity and broadband and all these things. But she's been in office since 2010, so for the last 3 years. But only in the last year, actually in 2013, she's discovered she has another issue on her plate, which is startups, okay? So what she says, we, Europe, have a very big problem of startups on our plate, for all the reasons you know. And she's right, by the way. I've been VP Europe for 2 startups based in Brussels, one for an American startup that went bust in the bubble burst in early 2000, and another one, I was VP Europe based again in Brussels for an Israeli startup that made it to be an exit, was acquired by BMC for $150 million. So, and in both cases, it was very, very hard to work from Brussels to be a startup. Okay. So Mrs. Kroes launched a new initiative in Europe only in 2013, and it's called Startup Europe. And what is it about? The mission is to promote web entrepreneurs and to help startups around Europe. And she knows, like everybody knows, that London is doing very well, and maybe Berlin now recently is doing very well, and maybe Oulu, 500 kilometers from Helsinki. But she has some 27 member states on her plate, and she wants to take care of all of them, and she understands she has a real problem. So the question is, what is the challenge? The way she sees that, and we here see that the first working document draft by the European Commission on the issue of startups and startup-friendly cities was published in April. That was 4 months ago, okay? And this says, first of all, on the venture capital, it says exactly the same thing what we saw on a global level, we see on a European level. It's a very concentrated industry, okay? Only 4 member states out of 27. And then that only a quarter of the amounts invested in startups are invested for venture capital are invested in startups. And going just beyond, a little bit beyond the venture capital, she sees that there's an issue of 3 main issues. One is finance, the other one is culture, third one is skills, okay? And we actually, that what makes actually what we would call the ecosystem for cities who want to become startup hubs. Okay, so the question for us, and maybe for the Kohler Institute of Venture is there anything that can be done to assist cities in becoming startup hubs? So then we go back to the mission statement, and the mission statement says, I want to be precise about that. It's not about copying a city, be it Tel Aviv or be it some other one, some other successful city. It's about, can we provide methodology to assist those cities who need this sort of assistance, okay? And then, of course, if we can do that, we can do tier 2, and I'm saying to start with, we'll always look at tier 2, because tier 1, they don't need us. Second, there are only a handful of them around the world. If you look at cities which are, at Tel Aviv level, there are not more than 10, maybe 15 of them around the world. So we have to look at tier 2, maybe 2, 3. And they're all doing already, okay? And of course, if we can become a global brand, that will be, if Yesha mentioned in the mission statement, we want to impact the world. That's a nice way of impacting the world, if we can do it. Okay, so the benefits for a CIV, if you decide to do that, is, of course, understanding better venture capitalism, of course, working on the connection between academic and practical business, okay? And third is the collaboration between the different constituencies that work for startups. The first 3 benefits I just took from the mission statement that I found on your website, okay? And the 2 other ones are, one, if to have a brand, which is an equity for that, and a 5th one, which I don't know to what extent it will come into reality, is to generate revenue that may serve for making this particular activity sustainable, or to contribute to other activities of the institutes. To be very, very practical, here are the first steps that I propose in approaching that. One is check what is available in research. Study more. See, we are not the first one to talk about it. People have been struggling with that all over the world, okay, especially in the cities, but also in other research institutes, okay? So first explore what it is and try to come up with a methodology, unlike copying, okay? Just see if you can package it, one thing. Step number 2, focus on Europe, okay? Go to Europe, go again over the list, try to look for tier 2 cities who are, you think, or we think, maybe good examples of that, and pick up 3. That's a good start for a pilot, okay? Third thing is, go talk to Neelie Kroes, okay? It seems from here that she's a symbol of the big bureaucracy around Europe. I've done in my career more than a couple of times, partnerships between smaller local or other organization and big monsters. You know, I call it the strategic underdog partnerships. Okay, so I would go to see her because I think first you see it's high on a plate, and it's very fresh. You know, everything she's doing is very fresh. It's only from a couple of months ago, and I think she would be very, very open to this kind of help that you can get from people like around this table. Okay. I will also reach out to other partners, and the list is very long. I put here, I only talk about two. One is the Kaufman Institute, as you're probably aware about that, which has global aspirations but doesn't have startup technology focus to start with, and then you can nor a city focus, of course, or academic credentials. Okay, so all these we can combine in order to talk to them. The second one is, you know, IATA, you know, industry. The chairman is here, you know. I mentioned that to him. Okay, two chairmen are here. Two chairmen are here, and when I met,
We split the fees.
okay. Not the sisters, I hope. Okay. So when I mentioned that to Yoav, you know, a couple of days ago, he says, "I'm sure we can help with that." Okay. So these are only two organizations that I think will be very happy to jump on a global program like that, including, you know, all the regional development associations and the municipalities themselves, etc. From when we have all that in mind, let's put together a package, at least for the first three pilot cities. Make it a good one because we wouldn't want to fail the first three, okay? And then you'll be able to propose to the cities. And last thing is, of course, do it now because it's time. Everybody's looking at. Don't wait for 6 or 12 months because we don't know what's going to happen then, and it's happening now. Questions that can be. I was trying to play the devil's advocate on my own presentation. Okay, so here are a couple of questions. Is a service methodology possible? Okay, can we come up with something that can be sold to cities and bring money, at least in the sense of bringing value? If the answer to this one is no, there's no point in continuing. If we believe that cities just become by chance or by accident or by something the Ulus of this world, then leave it, okay? It's too complicated. Second question is, does CIV want to explore ecosystems beyond venture capital? Okay, because I see venture and capital. I don't know exactly how to distinguish one from the other, but do we want to look at ecosystems? Okay, because
it's not mentioned at all.
Right, I only learned that today. Okay. So, do we want to deal with ecosystems? Third, does CIV want to become a player not only in the research part of it, but also in the service provision arena? Okay, now. There's no academic center that I know which is not involved in consulting. Okay, so it certainly goes together to start with, but it's still a different game for CIV. Certainly in the early stages where we are in today, to make a decision: do we want to be a player of this kind? And another question is: are we well positioned for success? And to this one, I say if we have been through all the first questions and we made it to the last question, I think the answer here. You know, there's quite an ecosystem to this institute. You know, just look around us here at the desk in Israel, and I think that the answer to this one is going to be a fairly easy one. Okay, and that's it. Thank you.
This program was brought to you by Koller Institute of Venture at Tel Aviv University.